Welcome to the weekly news around Bali and Asia. My name is Bruce Pullman, and I'm going to be talking about the news every week. These are short newscasts about topics of interest to those of us that live or visit Bali or Asia. I'll be covering all of Asia and maybe a little bit in Melanesia, another of my interest. And I'm an anthropologist. This newscast is coming to you from the Peripatetic Anthropologist YouTube channel. Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly news around Bali and Asia. This is March 22nd, 2020, and it's Sunday. And this report is a little late this week, and that's due to a couple of reasons. One, I'm sick. You might be able to tell by my voice. I've been self-quarantining myself for the last week because of a cough and some flu symptoms, just to make sure that if I do have the coronavirus, I don't infect anybody. So I'm here for another week. And so let's see what's going on. And this report is going to be really all about the coronavirus, because that's about all anybody that I know is talking about. And it's affected everything on this island and this country, and of course around the world. And so, first story, Indonesia is playing catch-up with the coronavirus. After a slow start and too long a time denying that the virus was in Indonesia, President Jokowi has ordered rapid testing to be carried out in Jakarta with some new rapid tests that have arrived. And the numbers for today: 450 cases, 38 dead. And the numbers are somewhat unreliable because of the small sampling that we have in Indonesia, the small number of people that have been tested. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen once testing becomes available on a widespread basis. And don't forget, we're talking basically about Java and Bali. And there's a whole rest of Indonesia. We have cases in Kalimantan, some cases in Sulawesi, the Eastern Islands. As of last night when I looked, there were no reported cases, but once you get into the Eastern Islands, medical facilities become pretty slim. So what have we got? About 70% of the COVID-19 cases have been in Jakarta, and this has become a political issue, just like it has become all over the world. Some tensions between the governor of Jakarta and the president of Indonesia about what to do, with the governor favoring a lockdown or a partial lockdown of Jakarta, and President Jokowi pushing back against that. So there is what's being called the soft lockdown of Jakarta, and entertainment centers have been closed, tourist centers have been closed, businesses that can be shut down are being shut down, people working at home that can work at home. Schools have been closed all over Indonesia for the last week. And on the front lines in Indonesia, in the hospitals, there have been a number of reports that the hospitals are not prepared yet, and I had a chance today to talk to a nurse from a major hospital in Jakarta who told me that they have patients, coronavirus patients, some positive, some suspected cases, even though they're not really prepared for those, and they do not have the equipment necessary. And here is just a shocking example. Doctors and nurses wearing raincoats dealing with the patients because they don't have the proper safety equipment. This is outrageous. Indonesia, United States, another place where nurses and doctors are working under intolerable conditions. Governments need to get their acts together on this. And so testing is being undertaken, and the president has declared that testing facilities will be moved to laboratories, not just one central place like it has been in the past, so that tests can be processed more quickly, so that there's more of an idea of how far the virus has spread, especially in the Jakarta area, and how bad the situation really is. So we don't know yet. One of the arguments that the government is making is that the virus has been coming in from outside Indonesia, and in response to that, visa on arrival have been stopped. You can no longer just show up at the airport and get a visa. Visas are still being issued. The government has not shut down Indonesia to foreigners yet. You can go to an embassy or a consulate, fill out an application form for a visa along with a certificate from a doctor in English stating that you do not have the virus and what your purpose coming to Indonesia is. So this is cut down on the number of tourists who are just going to come in, who just come in as usual, go to the airport, and they get the visa on arrival, and then they're good to go for 30 days. That's finished. There are restrictions on travelers from the Vatican, Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and of course China and parts of South Korea have been banned from entering for quite some time now. And this is supposed to slow down the rate of the coronavirus spread throughout Indonesia. However, we still have a lot of tourists in Bali, and let's go over to Bali and look at how things are here. Balinese authorities are still holding with the argument that there is no local transmission of the virus here, that there are only 4 confirmed cases, and well, it was 4 confirmed cases when I was going to record this yesterday, and then there was an announcement by the government that it's actually only 3. So the 4th case was a person who has left the island for another island in Indonesia, and so we have 3 confirmed cases here. 2 of those 3 cases are dead, both foreigners. The one I talked about last week's newscast, and the second foreigner who died was an elderly French citizen he was found on the street last week, dead. The original report from Balinese authorities was that it was not coronavirus. They were quick to say that it was alcohol related, they thought. But news has come out yesterday that in fact he was tested positive for the coronavirus. And despite the possibility of the spread of virus here, things have been going on as normal with the tourists that are left. And there are conflicting reports about what's going on the island in terms of foreigners and tourists. On social media, this is a huge issue with foreigners and Indonesians both involved in heated discussions about whether tourists should stay or they should go, who has the right to be here, etc. The popular village of Ubud has lost a lot of its business. The chairperson of the Ubud Hotel Association said that occupancy is down 20 to 30%. Now it's usually 30 to 50 at this time of the year. This is still low season normally. In some cases, he said down 10%. And you can see the photo here. Streets can be pretty empty. But that's not always the case. There are other photos you see that are not normal, because this photo here, this is a street that I'm often on. It's jam-packed with cars and people. So you can see the effect that the virus has had on Ubud. Nonetheless, popular nightclub and restaurants in the tourist area, from reports, are still packed with people partying all night. Excuse me. And that has led to, I wouldn't say a ban, what's the word I want to, a suggestion from the governor of Bali for all entertainment centers and tourist places to be closed. Now, he noted that it was a suggestion, not an order, and that establishments that do not close will not be fined or punished in any way. It's only a suggestion. Well, kind of a half-hearted measure. Close them or don't close them. Social distancing is something that's not catching on here in Indonesia. People are walking around in large groups, not just tourists, but locals as well. Supermarkets are still full. Panic buying is not happening, at least in Singaraja, where I live. Now, despite the argument that there has been no person-to-person transmission in Bali, that the positive cases have all come from outside. There is a report yesterday that a doctor has tested positive for COVID-19 after working in Bali Sangla Hospital, where the COVID patients were placed. And he's a resident doctor from the University of Erlangga, and he was here working at the hospital between March 2nd and March 15th. When he returned to Java, he was hospitalized and tested positive for the virus. However, the Bali Health Agency had said that it could not be concluded whether the doctor contracted the virus from the British woman who passed away last week. she said, we can't be sure. So authorities are doing everything they can to deny that we have the virus here. Transparency. That's a real problem right now. Not only in Indonesia, but in the United States and a number of other countries as well. And some good news in terms of transparency up here in north of Bali, in the Bulaang Regency. The Secretary of the Regency, Hakaday, reported that we now have 221 people in Bulaang that are being monitored for the virus. It includes cruise ship workers, migrant workers, and foreigners. And they are being monitored by medical officers at community health centers around Bulaang. And when asked about implementing the rapid testing kits, he said, if it comes quickly from the center, we'll do it. We've asked for them, and we're still waiting for them to arrive. And testing has been undertaken down in Sangla Hospital in the south, in Denpasar, although they've asked people not to come in unless they're seriously ill. We don't want to overburden hospitals with people who think they may have it or who are afraid they have it, but don't really have any symptoms. So, one last thing for today. Has not been a real cheery news report. Nothing really funny to report this week. It's amazing, very little in the news about crazy foreigner antics, getting drunk and doing weird things on the street, or just about anything else. It's all about the virus. And one last local bit, the university, local university in Dixa in Singaraja, not too far from my house, was vandalized yesterday, the day before yesterday, by unknown perpetrators. You can see some of the photos here, some rather rude words written, and the vice rector of the university said that, well, he apologized for the rude words that people had to see. I love that, very polite. And said that security is going through CCTV footage to try to find out who it was that came and did this. Of course, schools are closed all over Indonesia, so for those criminally inclined or socially irresponsible people who want to go around vandalizing things, this is a good time when there's less people out in the streets. And so, where does that leave us? Well, it seems that there'll be more and more cases here as testing takes place. As I said yesterday when I started this, last night when I was writing my notes for this newscast, there was 368 people, 369 cases, excuse me, and 32 deaths. And this morning when I was getting ready to do this, that number had jumped to 450 and 38. And so this is developing in Indonesia, and unfortunately this is going to be a problem for those doctors and nurses, and especially the nurse who happens to be my daughter. Thank you for your work, and stay safe. Thank you for stopping by. Happy travels. Find a safe place to stay, and good luck.